Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you had a great night and you're ready to get back on top of schoolwork. Okay, so we are in a new week, new genre, new essential question, a new vocab word. So let's figure this all out. So, our weekly concept is figure it out. Well, let's read further. So, our essential question is how do people figure things out? And what do I do next? So, when you have a problem, we often have to stop and we have to think about our solution, right? It just doesn't come up on the top of our heads. We're like, I know what to do. Unfortunately, that does not happen. We need to stop and we need to figure it out. But how do we do that? Well, we figure out things by asking ourselves some questions. We ask ourselves, what is happening? What can I do? And what is going to happen if I do this? So we kind of have to stop and think before we act, right? So the same thing goes for figuring out answers to a problem. So here we have a family, it looks like, and they are on a bike. And what do you think their problem might be? Right. They think we probably think that their problem is that they don't know where they're going. They kind of look lost. We have the girl here, she is looking at binoculars, and we have the boy here looking at a map. So, they stopped and figured it out. They were lost. The boy didn't go, I think it's this way. And the girl went, no, I think it's that way. And they just didn't act. They had to stop and they're like, I have a resource in my backpack. I have a map. So they stopped and figured out where they were going versus just doing something. So that is what we're going to be reading about in our weekly readings. Here I have a little video for you.
Figure it out. How do people figure things out? How do people figure things out? Well, the Williams family always takes a map when they go hiking. They are using their map to help them decide which trails to take. Jonathan is working on his project for the science fair at school. His laptop computer is a big help. He can use the internet to do research at home. Then, if he needs more information, he can go to the library. Nicole is at her library trying to pick a book to read for a report she has to write. Looking through books will help her figure out which one she might like. Becky and her dad are working on a model. First, they read the directions. Now they are putting the pieces together in order, step by step. What helps you figure things out?
Okay, so here I have a poem about someone getting a new bike or maybe an old bike, but we'll have to read it to find out. And this poem is actually going to be a free verse. So, free verses, they are poems that may use personification. So, personification is when an object is given human like features. Like you see a lot of personification in Disney movies. So, for example, like Beauty and the Beast, they have teapots, a candlestick, a clock. They all can talk and walk and sing. That is personification. They're putting human features, so talking, walking, dressing, they're putting that on non-human things. And alliteration is going to be repetition of sounds. So Bonnie, Bennett, baked, blue, berry pie. There's a lot of B's in there, right? Bonnie, B. Bonnet, B. Blueberry, B. Okay. Excuse me. So that is alliteration. And in free verses, they focus a lot about the thoughts and the feelings of the characters. So, what I want you to do is, I want you to really listen to this, and I want you to see if you can hear any alliteration, so repeating of beginning sounds, any personification, any um, any human features being put on non-living things. And I also want you to figure out what they're trying to figure out. So there might be a problem that's been going on, and they're going to stop and they're going to think about how to solve this problem.
New bike, old bike. I got a bike. An awesome bike. Shiny and new, as bright as the sun. Yellow seat, racing stripes, glitter grips, and glow-in-the-dark reflectors. And out in the back, near the shed, stands my old bike. A baby blue bike with a fat tricycle seat, big first-grade grips, and a cartoon drawing of a little yellow duck on the fender. And training wheels. Ugly training wheels. I zip past my old bike on my glittering, glorious, gleaming new bike. And I feel glad, but kind of sad all at the same time. I love my new fantastic, first-rate, phenomenal bike. But I loved that old baby blue bike once too. Now there it stands looking at me, missing me probably. While here I am whizzing past it on my super-duper dandy dream of a bike. Now here comes Nate, little brother Nate, who I call Noodles because of his curly hair. He looks at my old bike, and he looks at me. You want it? I ask. It's a crazy cool bike, and I'll teach you to ride.
Okay, so we heard some alliteration. Glittering, glorious, gleaming. What do those all start with? Right, a G. They all have the G beginning sound. Glittering, glamorous, gleaming. And then we also have fantastic, first bike, phenomenal. Fantastic, first, phenomenal. They all have what kind of sound? The F sound. And again, that's alliteration when beginning sounds are repeated. There was some personification there. I'm going to read it to you. Ready? But I loved that old baby blue bike once too. Now there it stands, looking at me, missing me, probably. So, what in that stanza, which is a line for a poem, what in that stanza can bikes not do in real life? Right, they cannot miss us. So that is personification. She's telling us that her bike is going to miss her, but really, do bikes have feelings? No. Okay. So when I said that free verses tell us the feelings of of the person in the story or in the poem, that was actually true. How was this little girl feeling about her bikes? Well, first we know about her new bike. I got a bike, an awesome bike, shiny and new, as bright as the yellow sun. Yellow seat, racing stripes. So how does she feel about her new bike? Right, she feels really good about it. She really likes it. She's proud of it. But now let's see what she thinks about her old blue bike. And out in the back near the shed stands my old bike. A baby blue bike with a fat tricycle seat. Big first grade gaps and a cartoon drawing of a yellow duck on the fender. And training wheels, ugly training wheels. I feel guilty. And I feel glad, but kind of sad at the same time. I love my new bike, But I love that old baby blue bike once too. So how is she feeling about this blue bike? She she's happy that she got this new bike, but she kind of feels sad because she's kind of leaving a past behind her. She had good memories with this blue bike. She kind of feels bad because she's leaving it behind. She had special memories with it. But what did she do to solve that problem? Instead of just saying, "Oh well, peace out, bike," what did she do to solve her feelings? Right, she gave the bike to her little brother. So that way it's still being used and still being loved. Okay, so there is an example of a free verse poem. And we will be doing more of those this week. So if you had a little bit of trouble, don't worry, don't sweat it. We'll get back to those. Okay, the vocabulary um is unique, I should say. This week, it's a little bit different. We're going to have 4 vocabulary words, but we're also going to have 4 poem words. So all in all, we will have 8. Okay, so poetry words, vocabulary words. So all in all, we will have 8. So you will need 2 blue papers for your interactive notebook, which you will need out. But first, let's just talk about the vocab words. So the first one is bounce. Keith likes to bounce a soccer ball off his head. So we already kind of know the meaning of bounce. We can see it in our heads, we can imagine it. But the true definition of bounce is to spring back after hitting something. So after it hits something, it comes back to you. So just remember the word spring back. Imagine. Mandy likes to imagine what her dream house might look like. So imagine means you can picture it in your mind. So if I tell you to close your eyes and imagine the perfect day, you are seeing it in your mind. You're playing through it in your mind. Inventor. Thomas Edison was the inventor of the first light bulb. So an inventor is someone who creates something for the first time. It hasn't been created yet. So an inventor is someone that makes it for the very first time. So if someone were to invent a bicycle, they're not inventing it because it's already been made. Observer. Jason is a good observer and enjoys watching birds. So an observer is someone who watches something. So now what I want you to do is I want you to take your 2 blue papers, cut them out, glue them to your interactive notebook like we did last week. And I actually have an activity for us to do. I have a little story that needs a little work. It is missing a couple words. So if I X out of that. Don't know what that is. So if I go on my hover cam, so you should have 2 pieces of paper back to back, like this, all cut, and mine's not cut right now, but I will do it. Cut and glued. That's what you need to be doing. Okay. Now I have a story here that's missing some words, and it needs our help. finishing up the story. So I'm going to read it, and it's your job to fill in the missing words. So the missing words are inventor, which we already said is someone who creates something for the first time. Observer, who's someone who watches. Bounce, when it springs back. And imagine, when you can see it in your mind. So use the context clues in each sentence to help you decide which vocabulary word fits best in the blank. Are we ready? Lawrence was fascinated as he watched the crew at the construction site in town. A new office building was being built, and Lawrence had been in a blank all summer. So has he been an inventor, an observer, a bounce, or an imagine? Well, let's look at our context clues. Lawrence was fascinated as he watched the crew at the construction site in town. A new office was being built, and Lawrence had been a blank all summer. So if he watched, is he an inventor, observer, a bounce, or an imagine? We have observer. Today's the day. It is finally done, he told his friend Walter, standing next to him. Wow, said Walter. It's been so long. They gazed up at the tall glass building. Yes, when I first saw them knocking the old building down with a wrecking ball, I thought the ball would blank right off the brick, Lawrence said. But that was just the beginning of the fun. So here we have, they gazed up at the tall building. When I first saw them knocking the old building down with a wrecking ball, I thought the ball would blank off the building. So we're talking about a ball, and he's worried about it something off the building. So is it inventor, bounce, or imagine? We have bounce. So if we read it back, it should make sense. I thought the ball would bounce right off the brick. Perfect. Lawrence loved to blank himself wearing a hard hat, hammering and putting up walls. So Lawrence loved to inventor himself, or Lawrence loved to imagine himself? Correct. Imagine. He admired the skills of the workers and the tools they used. The blank of all those tools must have been very smart, he said. They are all so useful. So the blank of all those tools must have been very smart. So must have been is in the past. And they must have been really smart to do what? To invent the tools. Okay, now let's finish the story. And look at the result, Walter said. The building is beautiful. Yes, it is, Lawrence said as he smiled. Maybe one day I'll be out there helping. Okay, so your job is to make sure that you have answered the questions carefully and make sure that you have your interactive notebook ready with the vocab words ready for tomorrow. Okay? And what we'll do is we'll go over these later.